Right, negatives of technology in sport, specifically with gameplay. So, what are the negative impacts of technology on how the game is played? So, let's start up here. So, it can often prolong the duration of a game because it takes a while for that TMO decision in rugby, or for the cricket decision to be made, the appeals that they've made, or VAR. There was an example last year. Obviously, we're just at the start of VAR, where hopefully you'd hope it becomes more efficient. But the Madrid v Ajax game, they were looking at whether a ball went out or didn't go out for over 4 minutes. And I showed you that video in lesson for the majority of you, which you could argue upsets the flow of the game. So that's a nice easy paragraph to get you started there. So because of the quality of the surfaces that they play on, there's less upsets and underdog stories, because the surface they play on is an absolute carpet every single game. There's possibly roofs going onto stadiums like the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, where they can close the roof and keep perfect pitch conditions. Well, if you've got perfect pitch conditions, then arguably the better team will win more regularly. Whereas some of the old magic of the FA Cup is possibly worth talking about here. Magic of the FA Cup, where there used to be like massive giant killings all the time, where lower league sides would beat a Premier League side or an old Division 1 side in old speak. That happens less. Not as much now. So does that take some of the competitiveness out of the game for spectators? Would be a nice way to finish that paragraph. Detracts from the ethics of the sport. So because the quality of a driver now is so much better that Rory McIlroy can hit 100 yards further off the tee, does the course record for St Andrews or the Balfour, does that matter quite so much from the old times? Has it lost that tradition of being able to hit a round of a particular score, because actually these new drivers can hit it so much further? There's something called technology doping, which I would type into Google again as part of your research for this paragraph. But basically, it talks about an unfair advantage to persons with the best equipment. So again, golf clubs there. If you're playing someone with a better tennis racket, cycling's a big one for this. I'll talk about that in a second. And bobsleigh and speed skating are two other areas where technology doping. Countries really trying to just have the best technology and creating an advantage for themselves. That links into cost over here. So obviously, if we talk about cycling, the cost of it can create a gulf between those who can afford technology and those that can't. So if you think of the Olympics and cycling in the Olympics, I've got a list here that's come straight out of our textbook, which I can show you, that talks about all the different expenses that the Great British Cycling Team has that would be, frankly, unaffordable for other countries at the Olympics. They would not be able to afford that sort of provision for their cycling team. So actually, it's not a fair playing field for who can cycle the fastest, which is quite a kind of generic thing. And obviously, the cost means that VAR would not be able to be used in the championship as well. Separate them two things. They're very different things. Maybe you could link that in over there as well. Obviously, how far down do you go with VAR? Like, at some point, there's always going to be a line where it's unfair. So, I don't know, Reading play Manchester United in the FA Cup. Well, actually, United used to VAR, Reading gone. Is that another unfair advantage? Just moving up here, players trust their safety and health on equipment. So, I've definitely mentioned this to you before about a cricketer who died called Philip Hughes. He was bowled a bouncer in cricket, so the ball came up here, right around his sort of head. Whereas years and years ago, they may have just ducked out the way and just gone, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Well, actually, because of the helmets that they wear these days, they think, I'll take the pull shot on. Whereas actually, if they miss it, that you're putting your life in the hands of equipment, and equipment does break. Equipment isn't perfect the whole time. So that's what I was saying there about shot selection of a cricketer, for example. There are other examples of sportsmen's or sportswomen's equipment breaking that you would be able to find. And the last little point is, does it take authority away from the referee? Again, not to just keep banging on about VAR, but cricket, even in and football as well, does having VAR take the authority of the referee away from them? Okay.